Good afternoon. My name is Retno Fadillah with O number 1107117337, and I am presentation of method investment. Content of this presentation. This presentation presents a model of investment timing by risk averse manager facing incomplete markets and corporate control. Managers are exposed to idiosyncratic risk due to dependence of their compensation on investment payoffs which are not spent by other assets. We show that risk-averse managers invest earlier than well-diversified shareholders would prefer, leading to significant agency costs. This effect can be mitigated if the manager is subject to corporate control or main finding is that the introduction of idiosyncratic risk and control result into regimes. When the market is sufficiently close to being complete, control has a strong disciplinary effect and agency costs can be virtually eliminated. And this is the quotes of invest. If you invest in a very low cost index fund where you don't put the money in at one time, but average and over 10 years, you will do better than 90% of people who start investing at the same time. And this is the quotes by Warren Buffett. And the presentation, um, two section of this presentation. First one, the model, two, model implication, three, conclusion. And the first one, the model. In our model, shareholders are well diversified and are unconcerned with idiosyncratic risk, but they usually investment decision to a manager who is risk averse. The project pays a one-off amount at a time for a cost scale where we assume all amount investment cost is a constant G. When expressed in discounted units or equivalently, we take the risk-free bond as numeracy. Note this means the investment cost is a constant Q when expressed in discounted units. That is exercise or investing at time yields the difference, but the investment payoff of fee of follow a geometric Brownian motion. And this is the formula. And where we standard Brownian motion did not by formula, the Sharpe ratio of the investment payoff out of the investment payoff is not traded. We assume there are other tradable assets available to the manager, summarized by the market asset did not P in contrast to standard option model. And this is our first proposition. In our presentation, we use proposition to implication model. And this is quotes of investment. A low-cost index fund is the most sensible equity investment for the great majority of investors. My mentor Ben Graham took this position many years ago, and everything I have seen since convinced me of its truth. This is the quotes by Warren Buffett. And this is the proposition one, formula of proposition one. If the condition be more than one or more than zero, we work on parameters to ensure that shareholders will invest at a finite threshold we can interpret as an implicit dividend, and not that when more than zero, the expected return on the option on the project fee is decreasing. In this case, there is a reason to exercise the option as on average. But the result in a lower amount, the implicit dividend yield represents the opportunity cost of waiting. If the condition less than zero, there is no reason to exercise the option early, and it is optimal to keep waiting. Another interpretation of D is as a measure of the life of an investment opportunity in a competitive market or with patent projection that is short life. Competitive advantage and positive NPV projects are likely to short life. This corresponds to a large positive value for D and equivalently a value of B in excess of 1. And this is the implementation of formula. The shareholders prefer investment timing and firm value will represent a benchmark against which the manager behavior can be compared. The risk averse manager choose an investment time and a position. The market asset to maximize his expected utility at the investment time. His position consists of two components. In addition to his accrued raw exit from his holdings in the market, implicit in this setup is the assumption that the manager's perfect well is contingent and on the value of the investment option or equivalently the value of the firm. The manager will be penalized with a greater chance of facing a control challenge if his investment timing choice deviates further from the shareholders' firm value maximizing choice given in Proposition 1. Like the probability, the manager face a control challenge at time be given by a formula where is formula the form of f reflects the shareholder formulas when the wrong threshold is chosen. Parameter C represents the strength of the control challenge. A proxy for one might be the governance index contributed by Gompers. High level of the governance index are representative of firms with high management power and thus weak shareholders' right, which corresponds to low values of our parameters as the strength of the challenge increase at a fixed choice of a success threshold, the probability of a challenge is higher. As the manager's threshold deviates from spheres, the probability of a challenge increases. If the manager is subject to a control challenge, he is dismissed and no longer receives any compensation. Based on the outcome of the real investment, this is modeled via the indicator function 8. The manager solves the following problem. There are two, there are two decisions to be made by the manager when to exercise the option to invest and the portfolio choice problem of how much cash to hold in the market asset. It is appropriate to formulate the model such that there are no bias arising from the underlying portfolio choice problem influencing the manager choice. If the manager choice of exercise or investment time, for a moment consider only the portfolio choice component of the problem in fact, which can be written as this formula. We show in Appendix R for the solution of seats to be independent of the reason we need this. To have the particular specification of discount factor, this just means that when the manager also has the real investment option and is choosing both an associating exercise time and the portfolio holdings according to his underlying portfolio optimization problem is not basing his choice of exercise time. Different choice of the world create artificial incentives to exercise early or may even lead to a degenerate situation where the investment option should never be exercised. In fact, in Appendix U, we show that it is their discounting choice that is driving the conclusion of Junior and Morelli. And define this formula. When he SV at t is 0 is equal to solving with this. By time homogeneity, we deduce the manager invest at the first passage time of V to a constant threshold. And this is the formula of proposition 2. We see from the above proposition that the investment timing problem of manager facing incomplete markets and control can be expressed as the solution to a HAB equation with appropriate condition. Just as in the standard well option framework, see proposition 1. In fact, there is a semi-closed form solution to the above problem which we express in the following proposition. And this is the formula of proposition 3. The manager's timing a problem without corporate control. We can recover the investment timing behavior of the manager who is not subject to control challenge, but just face incomplete markets. This process for a situation where shareholders' rights are weak. For example, a firm with a large shareholders manager who is not disciplined by minority shareholder by setting C0 or equivalently the function of this, there is no change of the manager being subject to a control challenge. We obtain the following result. And this is the formula of proposition 4. Notice in both proposition 3 and 4, the condition be more than 0 is required for the exercise of the investment option. In the model with no control challenge, C is 0, Henderson 2007 explores the implication of this requirement versus the corresponding the requirement in the shareholders model that be more than 1. In this paper, we will simply process by always taking B is more than 1, so that we are rolling out situation where the shareholders have an infinite threshold. These are clearly less interesting and realistic in our context. And second of implication model. Uh, 2.1 investment timing. We focus first on the investment timing by the manager who is not subject to control. And this is the proposition 5. Proposition 5 says a risk averse manager always choose an investment threshold which is below the threshold the shareholders prefer, that is the risk averse manager facing idiosyncratic risk invest earlier than the shareholders want. This occurs because waiting to invest in our model involves being exposed to fluctuation in the payout received upon investment, and hence waiting involves exposure to idiosyncratic risk. Consider the investment threshold for the manager subject to corporate control. And this is the graphic of investment threshold. Investment threshold for shareholders and manager is as a function of managerial risk aversion. In each panel, the the, the bold dotted horizontal line is PS 1.5, the dash curve is P is 0.5, and the solid lines are VC for value of C 1, 3, 7, and 10 from lowest to highest. Parameters are K is 1, and another giving B is 3. The top panel text P is 1.95, whilst the lower panel text P is 0.5. Also shown in the lower panel are the limiting values for C is 3, 7, and 10. And this is another investment threshold graphic. Investment threshold as a function of correlation, the dashed lines represent the threshold for the manager who is not subject to control. The solid lines are threshold for the manager subject to control, with the strength of control being C is 4. The pair of both lines are for risk aversion. Level Y is 10. The non-botant takes 1 is 2. Other parameters giving B is 3. The shareholders result is VS 1.5. And this is agency cost. This enables us to evaluate whether the variation in investment result translate into significant dollars values and are therefore of economic importance. We now consider the agency costs that are experienced by shareholders as a result of the risk averse manager choosing the timing of investment. And this is the formula. We can evaluate agency cost as being the difference in the shareholders' value of the option and the shareholders' value given the manager makes the investment timing decision. Similarly, we can also calculate the agency cost in the case where there is no corporate control. A comparison of these two costs will allow us to draw conclusion on the impact of control and agency cost to shareholders. In the absence of control risk, agency costs only depend on risk aversion and correlation through the product. For a fixed correlation, the cost increase monotonically with risk aversion, since the manager threshold is decreasing with risk aversion. The threat of control always results in reduction of agency cost to shareholders. However, the magnitude of this reduction varies with parameters. We compare the impact of control on agency cost into scenarios where one where this were like this and hence the agency cost without control are identical, we can show that when correlation is high, agency costs are virtually eliminated by control. However, when correlation is low, control only reduces agency costs by around 40%. And the conclusion, we present a model of investment timing by risk. A first manager facing idiosyncratic risk and incomplete markets. And corporate control, idiosyncratic risk, and control risk have opposing influence on the manager investment behavior and the manager traits of between them. In fact, we showed that the manager trait of result in two regimes based on the degree of idiosyncratic risk his investment poses. The risk of dismissal dominates over the effect of idiosyncratic risk when the latter is small, causing the manager to invest close to the shareholder's threshold. If idiosyncratic risk is not small, then if the control challenge is fairly weak, idiosyncratic risk dominates and the manager sells a threshold close to the zero and preferred threshold. And if a risk-averse manager faces a relatively incomplete investment situation, then our model predicts the manager invests closer to the zero entry fee threshold since control is relatively ineffective. Increasing the strength of the control challenge improve effectiveness by encourage. And thank you. This is my presentation of method investment. Stay safe and stay healthy.